Heroes in Crisis, Tom King, and it's Mitch Gerads
Uh-huh.
and Clayman on the art in this issue. Mainly Gerads, but Clayman's still in there a little bit. I think the first thing I'd say about this is that I think there's probably too many issues.
Yeah, definitely. Because remember, it was supposed to be 7,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then they added the 2 flanking issues, and then they just made them. They made it 9.
Yeah, and
Um,
I really wonder if like they've extended it too beyond what it should be, because there is some stuff in this that I think is good, but I was really feeling just because we've had a few of these issues now where it's very fragmented
well,
between just 2 or 3 characters, and it's just kind
yeah.
of. This was the first one where I really felt like I don't know if I got a full issue's worth of actual reading material in this one. It kind of just felt like little snapshots, and I'm like, I don't know. I felt a little unsatisfied
So,
as a
so
comic book.
for the content of what it was, this felt like it would have been the perfect, like, out of 7 issues,
Mm-hmm.
this would have been issue 4, right? The right at the midpoint, where we have all these questions, and then we get this really big bang of an ending, right? And then the following 3 issues would be like, okay, now we're moving. But this is issue 7, so it's like, well, what are we doing?
Yeah, we've got what 2 issues left.
Yeah.
So
Um,
it's weird because
that said, I really liked what I read here. The content, I feel like Narc ruminating about what life is. I never thought I wanted to read something like that.
I have to admit,
Like,
I felt like that was dragging down the issue a little bit.
oh, see, I really enjoyed it. Just his whole his whole idea of life before he was frozen and then life after he was unfrozen, and how much different it is, and would he trade one for the other, uh, and just what that means. And he brings in these different philosophers and their takes on it, all while it's playing out. And he's writing a mammoth. That's pretty cool. Like, I'm a sucker for stuff like that. But and then the Harley and Ivy stuff, I really enjoyed. Their whole relationship, and kind of us finding out that Harley wasn't supposed to be there. She like snuck in.
Yeah, that. I thought that was interesting. I liked their dynamic together. How much they seem to care about each
Yeah.
other was kind of nice. I liked that, and obviously the Wally stuff is interesting. It does create some interesting paradoxes with what we've seen already, because we've actually seen Wally die 2 ways now. We've not just seen him
Yep.
die once. We've seen him be killed with Harley over the back of the head, and we've seen him be shot by Booster Gold
Here's
now.
here's the thing with that though. So when I read this, I was like in shock because Booster's my guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he's if he is the one that's done the killings, then he's out there, running around like a madman through time with Ted Cord now.
Hmm.
So I don't think that's what it is. I think there's some creative editing going on here, um, with what happened with Wally.
Well, one of the big implications right now from the covers is that Wally himself might be the killer. And
Yeah,
if that's the case, then maybe Booster saw him do it, and like
it's
Wally's
right.
holding Roy after the fact. I don't like that though. I don't want.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather have Booster Gold be the killer than Wally be the
If
killer.
Yeah, if that's where it's gonna go, like I'm gonna as a longtime DC fan, it's gonna really upset me. That's up there with Rick Grayson. Like it's probably even worse than Rick
It's
Grayson
probably
because at
worse.
least that can be saved.
Yeah, I think Rick Grayson's easier fixed, and we can just forget
Yeah,
about it forever. And don't get me wrong, we can retcon anything in comics. Just
yeah,
watch us try, but it'll take
yeah.
more work to retcon this.
I'm thinking that the idea of this maybe playing into Doomsday Clock, because remember in Doomsday Clock they mentioned what happened at Sanctuary,
Mm.
and if we're going to involve Manhattan and plucking people, and with what Booster had said that this is a different Wally, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't want it to be cheap like that because again, we just got Wally back, but at like I just it leaves me with a whole lot of I don't know.
Unless, because obviously one thing I'm thinking is that we've seen 2 versions like this. So this is Harley's version of the story
Yeah,
versus Booster's version, which was when Harley, hit him.
right.
Right, that seems likely given that I think, Booster did kind of show up behind Harley after she killed Wally in that version as
Yeah,
well. Another thing is that maybe it's because one Wally's actually 5 minutes older, that both actually happened. And, when
right.
Harley comes in, she sees Booster, like, she's surprised because she just hit
Right.
Wally over the head. I don't think that one's as likely, just because again Booster's in both versions as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I mean, I like the build up to it. I like the alarms going off, and I liked Ivy saying
Yeah.
I'll be back in a minute kind of thing. Like, there's some
Oof.
details of that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Obviously, the most interesting part of this issue was probably the idea that Wally, when he comes back from Rebirth, is he feels like everyone's like, oh, you're the hope of the DCU, kind of like what we were saying in real life,
Yeah.
and he's like, yeah, but I lost my family. I'm not happy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to have hope when you're not happy about it. And I like that. And a lot of people are saying this is shitting all over Johns and Rebirth, and I don't think that's necessarily true. Because to me, this is just the next part, however it plays out, and I don't like, it's the next part of Wally's story. So you can be all hopeful, but then when you get there and it's not what you thought it was, that right there is the struggle. And I like that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this being a plot development in the sense that it makes sense that Wally is having trouble dealing with that.
Yep.
To me, the way I'm kind of reading this element of it is that, yeah, we've not actually fixed anything yet. Wally represented hope when he came back, but ultimately he could never be who he was without his family, because that's still
Right.
erased and he remembers it. And he kind of represents us because, in a weird way, how Wally's feeling because his family's not here is exactly how we feel about the DC Universe in a New
Right.
52 world, and to an extent right now. Some people more than others, but,
Right.
it's hard not to read this and be, like, depressed and be like, can we fix all this, please?
Yeah.
And I know, like, I don't think King is an idiot. I think King knows what he's doing with how he's making us feel. The question is what is the resolution to this? Is he allowed to have a satisfying resolution to this? And even if it doesn't, is the plan to then fix whatever we end up with here at the end of Doomsday Clock? If Doomsday Clock's going to fix anything at all, I don't know. But
No, I definitely think this is like its own, like outside of some reverberations we felt through the Price and in Green Arrow. I do think this ties itself up in a little bow. Like, yeah,
hmm,
there might be a little bit of threads that go on with certain characters. Like maybe Booster, whenever we see him again, he has some emotional scars from whatever happened, or he's locked up because he is the perpetrator. But I do feel like at the end of this, it's going to leave it kind of like, well, Sanctuary happened, but it was self-contained,
yeah,
and they caught it.
I mean, I can still see it being undone by the
Yeah.
end. Um, I think the most likely scenario for me now is that at the end there's just going to be that small moment of hope that somehow everyone's going to come back. Like, you remember how at the end of like Batman R.I.P. there was just that one? No, that wasn't
Yep.
R.I.P. It was the end of Final Crisis. There was that one page of like just like someone in a cave, but you see the shadow of the bat, and it was like, okay, he's really not dead. There's someone, he's
Yep.
out there somewhere. I feel like it'll probably be that, knowing that the end of Doomsday Clock or whatever is coming
Hmm.
is going to bring people back. I'm expecting Brightest Day 2 Electric Boogaloo, basically, at
Yeah.
some point. Because Ivy's not
It's
staying
just,
dead. I'll tell you that right now. There's no way Ivy's
yeah,
staying
Ivy's
dead.
too important to Harley. You know what I mean? Like that's what I really loved here is it felt like Harley's conflicted because we get this a lot by depending on who writes them. Like Harley and Ivy have like a thing, but Harley still has feelings for Joker. It's very complex. And here Tom King hit that all in a couple of
Oh
pages.
yeah, she's
Like,
killing Joker over and over again.
yeah, and on the holodeck basically,
Yeah.
and they're bringing up different versions of him, and he's telling these really lame jokes, and Ivy's taking a lot of joy in killing him, with the different vines and plants and stuff, which I also like because that gives us a peek into her psychology of either this is her girlfriend or her best friend, however they're choosing to portray it. This guy is toxic for her, so of course she
Mm.
takes pleasure in getting rid of him. And I just again, it's all very, I don't want to say subtle because it's not that subtle, but it's there's not a clear cut answer.
I'll tell you what, just to piggyback back on you said Ivy's too important to Harley. I'll go one more cynical step as to why Ivy's not
Yeah,
staying dead. Ivy's far too popular and sells too much merch to stay dead.
yeah,
Is
that's true too.
is the more harsh truth of the matter.
That's true.
Which is why I think she's actually safer than Wally is long term. But obviously, I'm rooting for my boy Wally. I'm rooting for
Yeah,
some
of course.
sense to prevail in
I
the
mean,
DC offices.
Pete, you're talking about three of my favorite characters being forever changed by this event. Booster, Wally, and Ivy. Like, you know, it's it's heavy. But again, I really enjoyed the Narc stuff. I know you thought it was kind of, it put the brakes on the story and
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
drug it.
it was okay. It kind of felt like
Yeah.
at this point I'm done with these random side tangents with characters that are not part of the
Yeah.
main story. Because we did this a few times. We had like Blue Jay, and we had a couple of characters, Hotspot,
Lagoon Boy.
yeah, Lagoon Boy. We had a few
Yeah.
of them in the first like 2 or 3 issues, and it was fine to introduce the idea of Sanctuary. I think at this point, no, now that we're post like the plot swerve of okay, Wally's body's 5 days too old, or Lois has got getting these tapes and these secrets about Sanctuary, like, and the story's broke. Now that we're at this point in the story, I'm kind of done with the random side tangents of all these minor characters who ultimately might not really factor into the plot that much. Whereas Harley and Wally are key to what's going on. They're the main focus.
Whereas I almost wish these were kind of tie-ins of these side stories of what was going on at Sanctuary. So it kind of builds out the story. And if you didn't want to read them, you kind of wouldn't have to.
I could see that. I could see. I don't know if I one shot because I don't know if anyone's buying a Heroes in Crisis Narc issue 1, but I could see like a collection, Narc, Lagoon Boy, and Hotspots, and that could be under Heroes in Crisis Case Files or something like that.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. I think that would have been fine. Because again, I'm enjoying the content. I agree that the pace is really off right now. And after the last issue ended with how it ended, and then we really don't pick up with Booster at all this issue.
Yeah,
and we have to wait.
Because for me, the revelation about Wally's body was the biggest thing at the end of last issue.
Yeah.
It felt like a turning point in the series, and this kind of felt like it just went back into like the early issue mode, and that was kind of frustrating. Because I compare it to Mr. Miracle, like Tom King's other work, which we all praised, and I think almost every issue of that is very standalone and memorable in its own way. You can see, okay, that's that issue. It's the issue where he finds out she's pregnant and they're going through the vents to each issue is like this perfect kind of story on its own. I don't think this issue in my head, a couple of months from now, I'm going to be able to really differentiate between, before and after it, really.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I agree. What'd you think of Gerard's art? Or Gerard's? I always forget how to pronounce
Gerard's. It's a hard G.
Gerard's. There you go.
Well, I'm not going to criticize you for it because I said soft G until I heard Tom King say it once, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, I read it one way, but when it comes out of my mouth, it always sounds weird. So I always question myself, right before it comes out. But I've seen a lot of people. I don't want to say complaining, but saying that his work seemed a little bit like sketchy or rough, but I really enjoyed it. It was a nice change of pace from Man, especially because we were talking about some of the overt sexualization in some of the early issues with Man. There's a page with Harley and Ivy, and they're drawn like actual people, like their proportions and the way they're dressed. Like we were talking about boob socks, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't have that look at all. No,
that's true. That's true. Because that's the thing. Clayman's actually a really good artist. There was just a couple of choices with the female characters that really stuck out on a couple of issues.
Oh yeah, we both agreed that it was kind of skeezy. It felt a little. And here, I felt like it was this very intimate moment between Harley and Ivy, but it wasn't played that way. It was played very no, this is just a peek into two people having an intimate moment. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah, it was played like an intimate. The art lent itself to the intimacy of the moment. It didn't feel like it was distracting from it. No. The art, I played the art. I didn't really have any problems with it.
So while it wasn't as clean and as crisp as some of the stuff we've seen out of him, like in Batman, like he did the rooftop stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with rooftops and then with all of Mr. Miracle, but I felt like it fit, especially the caveman stuff with Narc. I felt like that heavy scratchiness and rawness really matched there. But then when it came time to tell modern day stuff, I thought his Wally looked good. His Harley and Ivy. And then I'm trying to think of some of the other Booster. Like that last panel with Booster and Harley. Well, not the very last, but the last one that he draws with the surprise and stuff. I thought that was a really well done moment.
Yeah, actually, I really like the page that's all white with Wally kind of reaching his hand through it, saying "wait, slow down," which could be taken multiple ways. Is he saying "wait, slow down" because he's like going to kill someone, or is he saying "wait, slow down" because he's trying to like help whoever's there in front of him?
Right.
We don't get to see who it is.
Right.
So, but I like that page a lot. It had this.
Also, if it is Wally, like I just had this thought, and he snaps because he's lonely.
Mm-hmm.
I want a really good reason. And as of right now, I can't think of any. Like, I get that loneliness is a big thing, especially in modern day with everyone's kind of compartmentalized with social media and their devices and whatnot. But enough to go on a killing spree, I don't. I need to see the story there, you know?
Yeah, hopefully if it is, they somehow justify it. And even if they justify it, I won't necessarily like it as a development,
Yeah,
because what it does to the character for the next several years or whatever.
yeah,
But we'll see where it goes. I'm hopeful because the issue 9 cover's really teasing it, and I'm
yeah,
hoping that because it's really teasing it on the cover that it's actually a swerve. It's not really going to go down
yeah.
that route. Um, so we'll see. You know, is it Wally from a different universe? Is it a Wally from like
Yeah.
whatever? So no. So I'm mixed in the issue overall. I think the pacing here really felt weird, especially after we left the last issue, and
Mhm.
I don't think it stands out enough on its own as an issue with its own story. But it does have some great moments, and there's some great character little beats in there. So
Mhm.
it's it's yeah. What are you rating them at? I guess is what I'm getting
So
to.
I'm gonna give it an 8. I'm pretty high on this issue.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the ruminations and but the pacing's a big problem, but I really like the art, and I don't want to say it's an upgrade. It's a nice change. Like it kind of refreshing things.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna give it. I'm going to have to go 6.5. I was going to go 7, but
Okay.
I think I'm feeling murky in the pacing right now, and I think because of that I have to go with the 6.5. But it's
Fair.
yeah, it's maybe a little bit too long. I'm obviously we'll get 2 issues left. We'll see how it ends up in what, April. That's the last issue, April. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I saw over social media and in our group and stuff, a lot of people were kind of down on this issue, and I get it. So I shouldn't be surprised. But yeah, no, I liked it, I think, more than most.